I'm Garth and was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2007, tender young age of 57. You know, it felt like it hit by a brick wall. It was a huge shock. I was very fearful, and as I've reflected on that fear, it was kind of like there was a fierce dog trying to get at me. It's snarling and it's yapping, and it was on a chain, and I was wondering whether that chain was going to break and the dog was going to get me and put me in a box. The urologist told me to go away and come back to him and tell him what treatment I wanted, and he would then guide me through it. He'd guided me through all the options and then said, go away and we'll come back and talk about it. That empowered me. It really empowered me, and I think that's what helped deal with a lot of those underneath emotions. I opted for a radical prostatectomy, nerve-sparing prostatectomy. All the pathology after surgery was good, cleared everything. So I'm kind of going, I'm cured, you know, at least that part of it, the cancer's now gone. As it turned out, it hadn't. About 9 months later, a PSA test brought up the fact that there was a trace, a detectable amount of PSA in the system, and that was distressing to the nth degree. Unexpected, distressing, and I think I took that much harder than the initial diagnosis. My wife it's now 42 years. My experience of this and talking to other blokes with prostate cancer is this is a we journey, it's our journey. In fact, for me, it's been a family journey. We've got 3 adult children, 40, 38 and 36, so, and 7 grandkids, and it's very much, you know, our journey as well. I really encourage that, you know, if you've got a partner or a wife, that you're in it together and do it together. The biggest change for us was that post-surgery I had erectile dysfunction. It was a big issue at diagnosis when the urologist was talking about you know, how we could go about treating it, because he said, here are 2 side effects you need to be aware of: incontinence and erectile dysfunction. And I said, what were those 2 words you just dropped into the conversation? I said, I'm not signing up for that. That's not what I've come here for. I've come to deal with cancer, not get some extra stuff to carry on in life. So initially, for a week or 2, while I was trying to do the research, I was kind of going, I'd rather die with this cancer and have intact erectile function than to live and have ED. I guess because we had a very satisfying sexual relationship before we went into the whole treatment program, because it was an important part of our life. It was a very difficult thing to cope with for me as a man. You know, I was surprised at how I was affected just in my relationship with Sharron. It didn't affect my manhood elsewhere, but just in my relationship with Sharron, how a few inches that didn't operate like it used to actually really upset me. So that was something that just really confronted me big time. That caused a great deal of me withdrawing in our relationship. I withdrew affection, I withdrew hugs, I withdrew touch and kisses and conversation. Those things that are all part of intimacy, I started to withdraw, and I knew I was doing it. I use a basketball metaphor. I put her on the bench. I took her off the main game of life and put her on the bench and put her on the sideline. And that was a very hurtful thing to do. She felt terribly isolated. I became a grumpy old man at times, and she had not encountered this person. She reminded herself of our marriage covenant that we'd made, whatever it was, 37 years earlier. You know, in sickness and in health, for better, for worse. And that meant a lot to her. And so she kicked in with what I call unconditional love. A grumpy old man didn't deserve the love that she was offering to me. It was a decision she made. I'm sure at times she didn't actually feel like it, so she made this decision to love me unconditionally and stand with me and encourage me. We actually ended up coming towards the end of that time and saying we both want to fight for having sexual function back if it's possible in some way, shape or form. We tried Viagra and all those pills didn't work. We're doing the injections worked, but they began to produce quite a lot of groin pain, which is not unusual with them, particularly with continued use. That really kicked us into saying, well, we were told at the beginning that penile prosthesis is possible. And so we began conversations with our urologist about it. We began reading, again guided reading about it, taking our time, because it's a really important decision, because when a penile prosthesis is inserted, you actually lose the spongy tissue, so there is no possibility of having what might be called a normal penis ever again. I had a penile prosthesis surgery in January of 2011, so that's 4 and a bit years after the journey began, and it's a good thing for us. It enabled us to get back to, as best we could, pre-surgery sexual relationship. So, you know, that was a really important decision for us and a really important freeing up of our relationship. It brought spontaneity back into it, because it's simply just a few squeezes of a little pump and up comes the manhood, and he stands tall and ready for action, and he doesn't go down unless you let him down. So, you know, for us, you know, it's a good completion to the journey, and we've, you know, beginning to return to, we're 18 months, we're beginning to return to a pre-surgery expression of our sexuality and enjoyment of it, and it's just good. One of the biggest gifts that cancer has given me is to appreciate each day, to recognise, hang on, I'm on the green side of the grass. Let me enjoy this day, but more particularly let me enjoy the people who are in this day, whoever they might be. Life's too short. I had to realise I was not immortal, that I was actually, I used the phrase, was going to return to dust. And so to work through that process of mortality has actually been very helpful, because it frees me to live life. It's not going to take me by surprise.